Hi, everyone. I'm Brenda Winkle. Welcome. Today, I have a special guest here with us. I would like to introduce Nancy Popkin. Nancy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Brenda. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh, I'm excited too. And it was such a cool thing that happened that we ended up meeting in cyberspace. You
Right.
found your way onto my blog, is that correct?
That is, and I love what you write. And I don't read a lot of other people's blogs, but I love yours, and I don't miss one.
Oh, thank you. And you have an amazing blog as well. And I've really enjoyed following your posts. And you've got some great insights on nutrition and eating and being mindful. And and you're also a Huffington Post author, correct?
Yes, I am a Huffington Post contributor, and I will agree that I think that the two of us have a very similar philosophy about mindfulness and well-being in general.
Yes, I agree. So I'm so excited to have you here today.
Sure.
And I brought you here today because I've been having some recent health challenges.
Mhm.
And with your background in nutrition, it seems like maybe we can team up together to help other people as well.
Absolutely.
So would you like to share with us a little bit about your background?
Sure. I graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York, and that is really a program that teaches all aspects of nutrition. So many different philosophies, and the idea that not one size fits all. What's good for you may not be good for me, may not be good for another person. So it's really important to have the person's lifestyle and symptoms and everything else in perspective in order to best figure out what foods work for them.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's a very prestigious school.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So excited.
Yeah, there were some terrific teachers like Deepak Chopra and Dr. Weil and Liz Lipsky, who was probably one of the which you'll appreciate because she was one of the original people on the ground level of looking at the gut and what the gut means for for autoimmune. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That's so. Let me give our visitors today just a little bit of background about what's been going on with me.
Sure.
Prompted me to reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some blood tests come back a little bit unusual. I have a low thyroid function, which I'm treating with medicine, and with an anti-inflammatory diet. And I also have a high C-reactive protein marker in my blood, which is a predictor of inflammation in our body. And my doctors have told me that inflammation is basically the root cause of all of our illnesses and diseases, ranging from heart disease to cancer to arthritis and multiple sclerosis and all of these other kinds of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I've been charged with embarking on an anti-inflammatory diet.
Okay.
And in my research, I'm a big library person. In my research, there is not one anti-inflammatory diet. There are hundreds of anti-inflammatory.
There are. And a part of the reason is because we have inflammation in different parts of our body. So we might look at different foods depending really on where the inflammation is. So that's one of the reasons why there's different foods. The other is, I think, because a lot of information is really evolving now about fats and the role of fats in our diet. And so some information which may be a little bit older may look at anti-inflammatory in one way, and those that are maybe using some of the newer information about fats may add in some other things. But the key thing is, if you look at inflammation, like think of exercise. Like, we build muscle actually through inflammation in our body.
Right.
And what's causing that inflammation is the stress of exercise, right? So stress of any kind is what causes inflammation. So what can that look like? Well, it can be stress in the terms of emotional stress that causes illness in our body. And it can also be stress from the fact that our body is working so hard in one way because there's something it's not doing right in another.
Right.
And that's where the gut comes in, because about 70% of our immune system is in our digestive tract. So if we're not digesting foods properly, the stress that's caused by that causes inflammation. So therein lies the role of food, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how everybody's body is different, because low thyroid function can definitely be caused by problems in the gut and not digesting certain foods correctly.
Like, for example, gluten.
Gluten is a good one, right? And another one that's big for thyroid function is soy.
Right.
So that's another food. Those two things are good foods to start with eliminating.
Mm-hmm.
Because if your body has trouble digesting those foods, then that could then impair the function of what's going on in the gut and cause inflammation. Here's another interesting thing about thyroid disease. So you're saying about different theories.
Right.
So generally, vegetables of all different colors and the variety of colors are considered to be anti-inflammatory foods, and pretty much the most anti-inflammatory foods,
mm-hmm.
besides like tea, which
right.
has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties to it, and is probably the biggest anti-inflammatory food that we consume in the US.
Now, for tea, does it make a difference whether we're talking about green tea or black tea or white tea?
Green tea, black tea, and white tea are all anti-inflammatory. So white tea is often considered to be the least processed, so the best choice, but all three are anti-inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at the fruits and vegetables that are considered to be the most anti-inflammatory, the ones with the bright colors, there's a couple things to think about. Conventional wisdom says, oh, the best thing is to eat them raw, because they're the most colorful, the most vibrant. That's where all those anti-inflammatory properties are.
Right.
Well, that may be true for some people in some cases, but for a person who's having trouble digesting foods, think about it. What's going to be harder to digest? A raw carrot or a raw piece of broccoli, or one that is steamed enough that you don't want to take all the color out of it, but that it's easier to digest.
Right.
I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes in, because what I want you to think about as a person with thyroid disease is eat foods that are easy to digest, because if they're hard to digest, that's going to tax your system, and that's going to cause problems with digestion, and that's going to cause inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good for people with low thyroid and other autoimmune diseases to eat foods that are easily digestible.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't mean that you can't eat those cruciferous vegetables, but just really think about ways to eat them that will be easier to digest.
So would most of us have some kind of an inkling in our own body if our body's having trouble digesting something?
Yes, good question. Gas, bloating, constipation, loose bowel movements, all those things are good indications of whether something's going wrong. Now, sometimes if you change your diet, that will for a short time cause symptoms.
Right.
And sometimes you just have to work through it.
Things that are high in fiber, and we add fruits and vegetables.
Exactly. And fiber is considered to play a big role in inflammation and fighting inflammation. But at the same time, you have that stress factor in there where you don't want to be overstressing your body with too much. So that's why I like to recommend fruits and vegetables as the best source of your anti-inflammatory properties and fiber rather than adding things that are really highly fibrous, like beans. Beans are good, beans are great. I don't want to say beans are bad. And especially if a person has the vegetarian diet, beans are really important for protein, but they can be hard to digest.
Right.
So if you're a person who has trouble digesting those things, then obviously you want to avoid it. Another thing is that you want to eat organic fruits and vegetables if you can, especially if you have autoimmune issues. So eating organic is especially important because a lot of the anti-inflammatory properties are in the skins of the produce, which is also, obviously where the pesticides.
Right. And we want to be able to eat those nutrients.
We want to be able to eat those, right? Yeah.
So
and we
don't
want the properties to be compromised. Sorry.
Right. I was going to ask, what about for somebody who maybe doesn't have a thyroid issue? Maybe they have heart disease in their family, or they're trying to prevent heart disease, or they even have other concerns. What would an anti-inflammatory diet for someone like that look like?
Sure. Okay. So 2 things. One is for someone with heart disease, you're really thinking about saturated fats and healthy fats.
Okay.
So the best thing anti-inflammatory for a person who has heart disease in their family, which is often what C-reactive protein is used to measure for, is really eliminating saturated fats that come from meats and having more saturated fats from cold water fish, nuts and seeds, and coconut oil has found to have so many healthy properties in them, from everything from being good for things like preventing heart disease, but also for our brain function. And there are studies going on with Alzheimer's and even autism, and the use of coconut oil. So I think coconut oil is huge.
And that's so interesting because coconut oil is a saturated fat. But
but it's a plant-based saturated fat, and the same with avocados.
Right.
Avocados are another really healthy fat. So, so incorporating those into your diet are awesome. Now, if a person has an autoimmune disease like arthritis, like rheumatoid arthritis, or even osteoarthritis, one of the best anti-inflammatory foods for that is the bone broth.
Bone broth.
Right.
And is that like the homemade where you boil the bones?
Yeah. So the best way to do it is you, and specifically for joint issues, they found that chicken bone broth has been the most effective. So what you do is, if you have a crock pot, put bones in. Now, what I'll do is I'll buy organic legs and wings, or whatever's on sale, but I try to buy organic. You don't even really need a lot of meat, so you could even use like all wings, or you could use necks. I mean, if you want to go to the butcher and ask for the organic chicken neck, you can do that too. But you put it in your crock pot, fill your crock pot with filtered water, and you can use any organic vegetables you like to add a flavor to it. So you could use garlic, onions, carrots, celery, whatever. But again, please have it be organic. And another good thing to throw in is parsley, because parsley has a lot of antioxidants in it too. So, so you could put your organic vegetables in with it. Then add 2 tablespoons of something acidic like organic apple cider vinegar. That's the easiest thing to find and to use. Okay. Now, you want to cook it in your crock pot, slow cook for 24 hours.
Really? For 24 hours?
24 hours. Now, my crock pot only goes up to 12 hours. So when I do it, I have to make sure that when it ends, I'm going to be, home and awake and whatever. Right. So I can set it for another 12. And it's okay if it goes longer. It's okay if it goes a little shorter, but generally 24 hours. Then when it's all done, take out the bones, take out the vegetables, because they won't have any taste.
Mm-hmm.
Throw them away. And then what you're going to have left is this broth that you can use to either like drink as chicken broth, like you would eat soup. You can use it as a base for soup. You can use it in sauces or anything else, or anything that you would really, put some water or broth or whatever in, like if you're making a chicken recipe or something that calls for liquid. And it has these properties that have proteins and collagen that are so good for our joints. So when you think about it, it comes from the bones and joints, and it's good for the bones and joints.
It's probably not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. Absolutely not a coincidence. So, and when you think of other animals that eat animals, they have the ability in their jaws and their teeth to bite into things and get that out of the bone marrow, and we don't. So we have to cook it and use it that way.
Right.
So, so the bone broth is really great for anyone with any kind of arthritic condition and inflammation from that, but it's also really gut healing too. So they've been found, so studies have shown that it's actually reverse rheumatoid arthritis in some people. And it is also really good for the gut for any kind of cancer or any kind of other inflammatory immune system, supports the immune system. Now, we were talking earlier about how sometimes when you change your diet or eat something different, it causes algorithms to be different. Well, this is one of them. So there's something which, your followers may be familiar with, which is the bone broth diet, or sometimes it's called a bone broth fast, where you make the broth and then you make soup with it, and you can add back in like cooked organic chicken and vegetables, any kind of vegetables that you like, and make soup with it. And then for 3 meals a day, basically you eat soup.
Oh,
for 3 to 5 days. And it's been my experience from people I've worked with who've tried that it does change your bowel movements. And it's like cleansing and detoxifying, but in a way that's really much more gentle than, doing some kind of juice.
Because we don't want to put more stress on our bodies if we're already dealing with inflammation.
Exactly.
Yeah, and stress would cause more inflammation.
Stress would cause more inflammation, and the bone broth supports the liver, which is really our natural detoxifying organ. So we really don't need to do like a crazy detox or fast, because we have our liver to do that.
And one little tip that I use I make my own broth, and I have for years. Every time I cook, I take the ends of the vegetables, the ends of the onion and the peeling of the onion and the peeling of the carrots or potatoes or whatever it is I'm cooking, and I put it into a gallon Ziploc bag in my freezer. And when the bag gets full, it's a cue to me that it's time to make broth.
Isn't that a great idea?
Oh my gosh, it's delicious. And you don't have to add any sodium.
That's so great.
I think probably we've acquired a taste for it without the sodium. It may have been at one time we sort of missed it, but we don't miss it at all right now.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And I used to belong to an organic CSA, and I would do the same thing with the ends of the greens and that kind of thing. Yeah.
And there's 2 things I will tell you. Parsnips and asparagus do not make good broth. So just throw away the ends of the parsnip.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. That's a very good point.
Yeah. All right. I'm just looking at my list here, and we've answered so many of the questions that I came to you with. So if people were forward and they wanted to make one change, because, making a whole lifestyle change can feel overwhelming and daunting. But if they were to pick just one thing to do.
Okay. I have a great one thing, and it's actually something we haven't talked about yet.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Which is probiotics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So adding fermented food to your diet is key. And so one thing that I think that we can think about is not even if you don't have any compromised immune system symptoms and you're just a regular healthy person, probiotics are so important. They are good bacteria for our gut that help us digest our foods better. Mm-hmm. And they keep things from rotting in our gut, which is what happens when we don't eat enough fiber or we don't have the enzymes to break down a certain food. Mm-hmm. So I think probiotics and greens and coconut oil are the secret to preventing viruses and staying healthy all year long.
Now,
so when
just in case somebody's
go ahead. Sorry,
in case somebody's confused about a probiotic, do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So probiotics come from food that's fermented. Mm-hmm. So it's
like either
yogurt, kefir, which is similar to yogurt, kimchi, or sauerkraut. Also, kombucha, which is fermented tea, is my favorite probiotic. So kombucha has digestive enzymes, which are enzymes that help digest food. Probiotics, because it's made from tea, it has the anti-inflammatory properties that tea has. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I make a smoothie every day, usually for breakfast, or sometimes I have it for lunch, of kombucha, frozen berries, a mixture of different colors, because that's where you get all your different anti-inflammatory properties, about a tablespoon of coconut oil, some vegan protein powder, a little bit of cacao, which also is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, a little bit of wheatgrass powder, which is your greens and just more concentrated. And a lot of people put kale in smoothies, which is good, but sometimes it's hard to, it makes it like really chewy and a funny texture.
It can be gritty.
Right. So if you use the greens powder, it's not so much.
Right.
And then I just put it in a blender and blend it up. And my experience is if you have that once a day, you won't get the winter cold and flu. My husband had bronchitis 2 weeks ago, and I didn't catch it. And I think that the probiotics are really a key factor in that. And if you don't, it has a little bit of a fizzy taste. It's kombucha. It's like tea with because of the fermentation, it's kind of fizzy. Right. Some people don't like the taste of it. You could have yogurt, you could have kefir if you eat dairy. So there are other sources of probiotics, and then of course there are supplements too. But it's always best if you can to get it from food, because it will, the closer it is to food, it has like other properties in it that your gut recognizes, helps it digest it. When it's not from food, it's not exactly the same.
Well, and the closer we eat to anything in its natural form, the more nutritional benefits we get.
Right, and that's because there's so many complex properties in food versus when it's extracted and in supplement form.
And as far as, spiritual properties, fresh food and whole food has a much higher vibration, and we can keep ourselves much more aligned with our source, God, the universe, by eating well, by eating whole foods. And we can really impact our connection and our overall mental state if we're eating highly processed, highly sugared, highly fat, anything that comes in a wrapper kind of
exactly
can really bring us down.
Absolutely. The closest your food is to where it came from out of the ground or its natural form is the healthiest that it could possibly be. Absolutely.
So Nancy, can you share with us some of your contact information? And I will definitely post in this video and in the blog links to your website, to your Facebook page.
Sure.
To maybe your Instagram and different things. But for the person who's really hoping to contact you or reach out to you or check out your blog right now, where can we find you?
Sure. So my website is lovemoreeatless.com.
I love that. That is so cool.
Thank you very much. Well, I was brainstorming what I wanted to call my company when I took my nutrition counseling business from just being a local business to being online. And we were kind of joking around, and I said, love more, eat less. And my friend said, you know what, that really is kind of you. I think you should use that.
It's very cool.
Thank you. So it's lovemoreeatless.com. And also on Facebook, it's Love More Eat Less on Facebook is my Facebook page. And then I'm Nancy Ann Popkin on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
And my blog is on my website, as well as links to my Huffington Post blog. And I just had a recent blog post on a website for a company in Australia, and I haven't posted that yet on my website, but I will. And so I work with clients via phone mostly, but some people like to Skype. So that's good too. Either way, even most of my local clients I work with via phone because it's just so convenient for everyone. And the best thing is just helping people figure out what changes they can make to really increase their energy and feel so good that they can just accomplish everything they want to in their life.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for being with us here today, Nancy.
And thank you for sharing your wisdom as much as you do.
Thank you.
You're really an inspiration, and you inspire me, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, and you're welcome.
I look forward to doing a blog with you as well for my followers.
Yes, this is definitely not the last time we'll be together, I'm sure.
No, definitely not.
All right, well, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.